Hello survivors! There have been a lot of discussions since the 2.0 launch a few weeks ago for 7 Days to Die. Big changes made to the game, and especially the game progression left many players confused and some quite unhappy. They disliked the fact that the game started to become more linear and took you by the hand rather than giving you the freedom to progress in the way you wanted. And while there was the chance to disable the new progression system, it would have left players with barely any new content for the 2.0 release. So yesterday night, 3 devs of the Fun Pimps did a town hall to this discussion, even though I have to say it was not so much of an actual town hall, as people couldn't ask questions live, but it was a list of questions they had gathered beforehand, reading Reddit, forums, social media, and watched videos on the topic. I personally don't mind that too much because it meant they could prepare for the answers, and we were through the part rather quickly. Seeing devs stumble over live asked questions and then just answering, we have to look into that, would have made it a very boring stream.
We're here tonight to talk about what we could do better with 2.0. We want to thank you all for all the feedback that you've been giving us. And, we wanted to let y'all know that we're listening. The team has been reading feedback from Reddit, forums, social media, influencers, and singled out a number of topics that we think we could do better on. 2.0, we tried a few new things. Some of it went well, some of it could be better. To that end, we're going to get into some details in the stream.
While I noticed Reddit is still being mad about the Town Hall stream, I don't share the opinion. And as you're about to see, they didn't just touch the complaints or excused what they did, but they tackled almost every single one heads on. So let's start with everything that was talked about in the Town Hall that will affect any update before the 3.0.
Why did we put in loot stage caps? Joel, take her away.
All right, well, thinking ahead as part of the 4.0 story update, we wanted to guide the player to facilitate the story and encourage the player to explore other biomes and the entire world. After listening to the community and examining the system, we agreed this is not needed and removed it for the next patch. The game already has loot biome bonuses and POI loot bonuses per tier, so there is already incentive to explore the world and move on.
Cool. Okay.
Well, those are gone. Those worried about the loot stage caps, they're gone. There's only the bonuses.
In the 2.0, they introduced loot stage caps to have people explore in order to raise their loot quality cap. And I personally didn't like the idea. And in our playthrough, we didn't suffer too much from it as we played with a Twitch integration, and that is anyway a loot printer. But that would make the game even more grindy in a very boring way. They understood that the previously already existing loot bonuses in the higher areas are already encouraging exploration enough and giving the player risk and reward by default, so the loot stage caps are going to be removed. Another point I didn't like also when they talked about the trader progression was the very linear biome progression mechanic.
So biome progression was needed to pave the way for the final story in Bandit implementation, albeit we think we can do a more open-ended sandbox version that we have in mind, which we'll get into in a little bit. That's really why we did it. To tell a story, you need a solid guided way to get to that story. If it's all open, you can't facilitate the story because of the conditions in programming.
Here's what we're doing. The biome challenges are going to be changed so that the biomes can be unlocked in any order to promote sandbox gameplay. You can go straight to the wasteland and go and do that challenge first if that's something you feel like doing. Biomes are still going to have increased difficulty in order of the pine forest, burnt forest, desert, snow, and then the wasteland. And we're also keeping the option to turn off biome progression.
In the 2.0, this was even more problematic as you were required to have a map that took this progression system into consideration. Having a map that has the starter area, for example, southwest, and then the second biome you need to go northeast, that would require you to pass biomes you are not even capable of passing. That was also the reason why we played Neversgain on launch, so I could be sure to have the right biomes close by to each other. The change now will be that the biome progression stays, but you don't have to do it linear. You can go to whatever biome you want to go and you finish it if you feel capable of it. And if you really don't like the progression system at all, just turn it off, really. Next big point was the badges. I didn't mind them personally, but after hearing people's reasoning that it doesn't make sense to suddenly be able to breathe smoke or be unaffected by radiation because you have a little patch on your jacket, from that perspective it made a lot of sense, and I agree.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
Really did it.
Those badges, instead of just icons in your profile, will soon be items that you craft after your biome progression is done. And you can then put them into a dedicated slot in your inventory. And you can even craft them for a friend to play with you instead of dragging them through the progression themselves. The items will most likely be for the burned forest firefighter respirator, for the desert a bandana, hat and sunglasses, for the snow biome, a balaclava and snow goggles. For the wasteland, a biohazard mask with filters. And while you won't see them on your character, they will create a buff icon in your inventory. And since these survival kits, that's how they call them, are items, you can lose them on death, which requires you to prepare with the new items that will replace the smoothies introduced in 2.0. Yes, the smoothies will be gone as well. The burn smoothie will become the black lung serum that you will have to inject. The oasis smoothie will be the drinkable sunstroke tonic. The frost spice smoothie will become the scorcher stew, probably food you will eat. And the atomic smoothie will become the fallout flush, also injectable. And since in the current 2.0 version, once you have the badges, those smoothies have like no real use anymore, because the survival kits are items and when you die you lose them, you can use these replaceables as a temporary buff to get to your loot and loot your death back again. But even after, they also provide 50% storm damage prevention in the biome that they are crafted for. So that's pretty nice. You will always want to have them with you so you can be prepared when a storm is coming. But let's talk about storms. They are an important part of the storms update. It's in the name. In the 2.0 patch, they didn't do a lot other than annoying you and force you to spend your already limited daytime in a shelter. Putting people in a timeout, like they said, was not a fun mechanic. The storm shouldn't pause the game for you, but should offer you a different game mechanic to interact with. No storms will occur in two strengths. One is the stage 1 storm that will apply a biome-dependent debuff on you, and this debuff counts down as soon as you find shelter. Those storms have the chance to spawn on their own without getting worse, but if they go worse, they will be a stage 2 storm, and then they will apply damage to the player if they are exposed to it too long. And this, like mentioned, can be reduced by the new smoothie replacements. But since we also want to have some risk and reward, during the storms you may find storm zombies, which have a much higher chance to drop loot bags. So if you want to be in the storm and kill some zombies, then you may find better gear for yourself. The storms themselves will also undergo more balancing. They will be shorter to time out player, less if they choose to not interact with the game mechanic. We will also get storm survival gear, which will bring back lootable clothing items. After the big armor rework, they took out all clothing items, and now you will find protective accessories like beanies, long underwear, and socks to protect yourself from the storm influence. The weather survival elements will also finally come back into the game. Fire and torches will warm you, rain will make you miserable. On the other hand, water will cool you down if it's too hot. The developers pointed out that it's very important to them to offer possibilities for people to adjust and play the game like they want.
We're working on adding a couple menu options, storm frequency, storm duration, maybe storm damage, in a new expanded menu that gives us a lot more options. We're going to do some big things to the menu for a lot of game control options, simulations options, which are super important to players. I mean, part of our whole thing was like, we thought not everybody's going to like storms. Okay, well, let's allow them to turn them off. Not everybody's going to like biome progression. They want to play sandbox, and we turn them off. But, we're going to continue down the path of more control and more facilitate story mode, facilitate sandbox mode.
Therefore, they will also add more adjustments to the storm controls for your game, such as frequency, duration, and damage. So you don't have to decide if you want to turn the storms on or off, but you can make them easier or even harder for your gameplay. The next big point was critique for the Plague Spitter and for the Frost Claw, who were both added as mid and endgame enemies. The community complained about not wanting to have fantasy monsters that just didn't fit into the game setting, and the developers agreed. And so the zombies will get a rework. The Plague Spitter will get the model of Native Americans to tie them in with the game's central Arizona lore, and the Frost Claw will be a lumberjack or some other mountain-related person. The model for that one wasn't done yet. And the spawn rate for these enemies is also reduced in the next patch, as they were very common for rare enemies. There are also changes coming to the game before the 3.0 that are not really changes the community insisted on, at least not lately, but that will improve the gameplay. I will quickly wrap them up for you. first third-person camera is in development, so we can now see our cute survivors. The ability to tint armor will be back. Who wants to look like a normie anyway? The game will soon prefer flat spots for quests and loot drops. I remember when I had to climb a steep mountain for a whole hour in order to get an air supply drop. Not fun, and it was also not worth it, so none of that anymore. They are also exploring the possibility to include color blindness accessibility by marking enemies with icons, which would need a differentiation by color. Legendary and unique weapons that have either a unique skin or name can be found in one of the next patches. Then they will offer a degrading option. And they stated several times that this is optional for all hardcore players. You can turn on that your items and armor decays over time to give you more reasons to keep looting even after having all items in purple quality. And I repeat, this is optional. You can decide if you want it or not. Then more in-game options to make the game more sandboxy, and this was highly requested, and they explore the options to turn on and off certain mechanics in the game like traders, quests, and adjust the abundance of certain loot items like food, meds, water and ammo. Also exciting that they are working on new workstations, an apiary for honey to help you with zombie infections, a chicken coop for eggs and feathers, and an electrical stove for quicker cooking. All three things I think are needed right now in the game, because every single of them makes the game grindy in a non-fun way. The 3.0 will be the next major update and will be the Bandits update. Pushed a few times now, it will bring 12 new Bandit models with different fighting styles and abilities, and who will even talk to you and comment what you do during combat. They realized it was very ambitious what they did with the Bandits, and it took them a lot of time to get where they are now. 3.0 will also bring a new quest type in which you have to blow up a building. I mean, we all already did this for fun, but now the trader even pays for it. Win-win. Last but not least, the devs made clear that they will continue to support modders and their work, and that they are exploring how to join the Steam workshop to make modding easier with an already established mod platform. We don't have any ETA for this, but they say they are looking into it. And now we have to talk about the elephant in the room. I've seen people being very angry about this quote, so let's listen yourself.
Yeah, we have a roadmap that we are focused on, so, I mean, it's good if they can add in different things, but, the bandits y'all keep bringing up, we are working towards them, as we said just a minute ago, and, that's, we're going to try to stay focused on that.
Just so you know, when we're reacting to feedback and we're changing our production plan, we are effectively delaying Bandits, just so you know. So when you request a lot of stuff and you come in numbers and you ask for it and we say, all right, we're listening, we're going to do this, that costs us time. But if you want Storms to be better, you want progression to be better, then we're gonna commit that time to it, and we're gonna do our best to try to deliver Bandits as well. But it will impact some of our staff.
Yeah, and Bandits we just really want to get right, so that's why it's just taking a little bit, because we have a lot of ambitious goals for it with a voxel game. So we'll get there. And as we said earlier, what is it? 13 different ones. That was crazy.
Now, I've seen the reaction to this quote. People are calling it arrogant, a guilt trip, and I get it. I see why it lands that way for some. But I think there's another more important way to look at it. For me, it really just sounded like they wanted to make clear that any additional work will delay the planned work. He never said, don't suggest improvements. He just stated that work that wasn't planned beforehand will change the plans and the timeline. And I think that's a fair thing to say. We're really used to game studios being rushed by investors to publish games on time, no matter in what state they are in, as long as they are published. The deadline is more important than the quality, and the Fun Pimps are in the lucky position to be able to set their own deadlines and plans, which means they can make these decisions to fix something the community didn't like as much as they thought they would. But those decisions will change timeframes, and to remind people of that is just to make sure people understand that you can only work on one thing at a time. And as much as I also want the Bandit update, I'd rather have the devs working normal work hours and don't get forced into crunch times by greedy investors and publishers, because I have seen what it does to other studios and games, and while this kind of development is slower, it's also healthier. Overall, I think they addressed most things people didn't like about the 2.0 update, and their willingness to change it for the player is appreciated from my side. Sure, with one or another answer, you could tell there was a little bit of frustration in the tone. Maybe because a person put a lot of work and time into the mechanic that now gets reverted. And that can feel defeating. But by choosing the community over their own personal feelings, it shows that if something stings, they see what is still important. And in the end, devs are just people too. But they know community comes first, no matter how you feel about it. And maybe I'm really too used to no communication or bad communication from devs, or devs simply abandoning games when it gets too complicated, that I fail to see the problem people have with a town hall or communication around it. Because I'm personally looking forward to all of these changes that will happen, when they will happen, and we will, of course, again play 7 Days to Die together on stream. But let me know what's your opinion about the town hall and what's your opinion about the changes. Is there anything that you would like to see changed still? Or is there anything they're changing now where you were the opinion like, that was actually not too bad? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious how you think about it. Thank you so much for watching, and stay alive and thrive.